The cyber attack began at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Coordinated strikes against financial institutions, healthcare providers, and government databases that occurred simultaneously across 12 time zones. Within 6 hours, hackers had penetrated systems protecting sensitive data for 47 million Americans, extracting social security numbers, bank account details, medical records, and personal information that could be weaponized for identity theft and financial fraud. The stolen data began appearing on dark web marketplaces before law enforcement even understood the scope of the breach. The FBI's cyber division identified the attack's signature within 48 hours. The methodology, code structure, and targets matched previous operations attributed to a hacking collective known as Phantom Siege. This group had operated for 5 years, conducting increasingly ambitious cybercrimes that ranged from corporate espionage to ransomware attacks on municipal governments. But this latest operation represented quantum escalation in both scale and audacity. The data stolen was valued at over $3 billion, making it one of the largest cyber heists in history. Intelligence analysts worked to identify Phantom Siege's leadership and infrastructure. The group operated with sophisticated operational security, using encryption, proxy servers, and cryptocurrency to obscure their identities and locations. Communications occurred through encrypted channels that changed frequently, making sustained surveillance nearly impossible. Members were distributed internationally, recruited through dark web forums, and paid in Bitcoin for their contributions to various operations. But every organization has vulnerabilities, and Phantom Sieges emerged through a mistake made by a lower-level member who failed to properly mask his IP address during a routine communication. This single error allowed FBI analysts to trace the connection to an apartment in Prague. Czech authorities raided the location and arrested a 23-year-old programmer who agreed to cooperate in exchange for avoiding extradition to the United States, where he faced decades in federal prison. His testimony revealed Phantom Siege's structure and identified its founder, a 38-year-old American who had been living abroad for 6 years to avoid prosecution on earlier hacking charges. The founder operated from various locations in Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, moving frequently to stay ahead of law enforcement while coordinating operations through encrypted communications and online meetings. He had built Phantom Siege into a criminal enterprise that employed over 30 hackers across 15 countries, generating annual revenue estimated at $500 million through data theft, ransomware, and selling access to compromised systems. The founder's background revealed a trajectory from legitimate computer science to criminal enterprise. He had worked as a security consultant for major technology companies, using his access to study systems and identify vulnerabilities. When he was caught conducting unauthorized penetration testing that crossed into illegal territory, he fled rather than face prosecution. Abroad, he used his expertise to build Phantom Siege, recruiting talented programmers who shared his contempt for corporate security and governmental oversight. Federal prosecutors obtained an indictment charging him with conspiracy, computer fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. The charges carried potential sentences exceeding 200 years in federal prison. The indictment was unsealed publicly, with the FBI adding him to its most wanted list and offering a $5 million reward for information leading to his capture. His photograph appeared on digital billboards and in media coverage worldwide, transforming him from anonymous hacker into one of the most sought fugitives in cybercrime history. The Manhunt required unprecedented international cooperation. The FBI worked with Europol, Interpol, and national law enforcement agencies in dozens of countries where the fugitive might seek refuge. Financial tracking focused on cryptocurrency wallets and exchanges where he might convert stolen funds to usable currency. Communications intercepts targeted known associates and former Phantom Siege members who might still be in contact with him. Technical analysis examined servers and infrastructure used in the massive data breach, looking for patterns that might reveal his current location. The fugitive's response demonstrated the same sophistication that characterized his criminal operations. He disappeared completely from digital spaces where he had previously maintained presence. Cryptocurrency wallets associated with him went dormant. Communications with known associates ceased. He had apparently activated contingency plans developed specifically for the scenario where his identity became known to law enforcement. These plans included false identities, safe houses in multiple countries, and resources sufficient to remain hidden indefinitely. Intelligence intercepts revealed that some Phantom Siege members were attempting to locate him, either to warn him about cooperating members or to collect the FBI's reward. The group's internal cohesion fractured as members recognized that association with the founder now carried enormous risk. Some surrendered to authorities in their home countries, hoping cooperation would reduce sentences. Others went dark themselves, shutting down operations and attempting to distance themselves from Phantom Siege before they too were identified and indicted. The FBI established a dedicated task force that included cyber specialists, financial analysts, and U.S. Marshals experienced in tracking international fugitives. The task force operated from a secure facility where analysts could process the massive amounts of data generated by global surveillance efforts. Every reported sighting was investigated. Every financial transaction potentially connected to the fugitive was analyzed. Every communication intercept was examined for clues about his location or intentions. The first substantial lead came from an unexpected source. A dark web marketplace administrator, arrested on unrelated charges, revealed that the fugitive had recently contacted him about selling access to the stolen data. The marketplace specialized in financial fraud, tools, and stolen credentials. Exactly the type of venue where data from the breach would be monetized. The administrator had recordings of encrypted voice communications and technical analysis of background noise and speech patterns suggested the fugitive was somewhere in Southeast Asia, possibly Thailand or Vietnam. Marshals coordinated with law enforcement in both countries, sharing intelligence and requesting enhanced monitoring of expatriate communities where an American fugitive might attempt to blend in. Both nations had significant populations of digital nomads and long-term visitors, communities where someone with technical skills and cryptocurrency wealth could live comfortably while avoiding scrutiny. But they also had capable law enforcement agencies, motivated to cooperate with American requests, particularly for a fugitive whose crimes had international dimensions. Thai authorities identified several locations where the fugitive might be living based on patterns from previous Phantom Siege operations. Surveillance teams monitored upscale apartments in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, popular with foreign residents who worked online. They watched for individuals matching his physical description who exhibited behaviors consistent with someone hiding from law enforcement: minimal public presence, extensive use of encryption and VPNs, unusual financial transactions conducted through intermediaries. The breakthrough occurred in Chiang Mai, a city in northern Thailand known for its digital nomad community. Surveillance teams identified an American matching the fugitive's description, living in a luxury condominium under a false identity. Technical surveillance detected encrypted communications originating from the apartment that matched patterns associated with Phantom Siege infrastructure. Financial records showed the apartment's rent was paid through a series of cryptocurrency transactions designed to obscure the source of funds. Thai police coordinated with U.S. Marshals to plan the apprehension. The operation required careful timing to ensure the fugitive was present and to prevent him from destroying evidence or alerting associates. Surveillance established his daily patterns. He rarely left the apartment, ordering food delivery and conducting all business online. The few times he did venture out, he used extensive counter-surveillance techniques, including changing vehicles, varying routes, and checking for following cars. The arrest operation commenced at dawn. Thai police tactical teams entered the condominium building, while marshals waited nearby to take custody once the fugitive was secured. Officers breached the apartment door and found him asleep, surrounded by computer equipment and external hard drives containing terabytes of stolen data. He was detained without resistance, though he immediately invoked his right to remain silent and requested legal representation. Forensic analysis of the seized equipment revealed the full scope of Phantom Siege's operations. The hard drives contained records of dozens of cyber attacks beyond those already known to law enforcement. Communications logs identified additional members of the hacking group who had not yet been discovered. Financial records showed the movement of over $2 billion through cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore accounts. The evidence was comprehensive and overwhelming, documenting years of criminal activity in meticulous detail. Extradition proceedings began immediately, though the fugitive's attorneys filed multiple challenges attempting to prevent his transfer to American custody. They argued that his alleged crimes were not serious enough to warrant extradition, that evidence was obtained illegally, and that he faced politically motivated prosecution. Thai courts rejected these arguments systematically, finding that the crimes charged were serious. Evidence collection followed proper procedures, and prosecution was based on criminal conduct rather than political considerations. 3 months after his arrest, the fugitive was transferred to U.S. custody and flown to Washington, where he was arraigned in federal court. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, and his defense team began building arguments that would be presented at trial. But the evidence seized from his apartment, combined with testimony from cooperating Phantom Siege members, made conviction almost certain. Prosecutors offered a plea deal that would result in 30 years imprisonment rather than the multiple life sentences he faced if convicted at trial. He rejected the plea deal, apparently believing his technical expertise and resources would allow him to mount an effective defense. The trial lasted 7 weeks, with prosecutors presenting testimony from cybersecurity experts who explained how the attacks were conducted, victims who described the impact of having their personal information stolen, and former Phantom Siege members who detailed the organization's structure and the founder's leadership role. The defense argued that the founder was merely a consultant who provided technical advice to independent actors, not a criminal mastermind coordinating illegal operations. They challenged the authenticity of communications attributed to him and suggested that evidence from seized computers might have been planted or manipulated, but the weight of evidence proved insurmountable. communications contained references only the founder would know. Financial records showed him receiving percentages of proceeds from various operations. The organizational structure documented in seized materials clearly showed him at the apex of the criminal enterprise. The jury deliberated for 2 days before returning guilty verdicts on all 63 counts. The judge scheduled sentencing for 3 months later, allowing victims to prepare impact statements and the defense to present mitigating factors. During this period, additional details about Phantom Siege's operations emerged, including attacks on critical infrastructure and medical facilities that had resulted in service disruptions affecting thousands of people. At sentencing, prosecutors presented evidence that the founder had shown no remorse and had attempted to conduct illegal activities even from jail, using smuggled phones to communicate with remaining Phantom Siege members about continuing operations. Victim impact statements described financial devastation, medical consequences from delayed treatments when hospital systems were compromised, and psychological trauma from having intimate personal information exposed publicly. The judge imposed 15 consecutive life sentences plus 300 years, ensuring the founder would never be released regardless of appeals or sentence modifications. Additional fines totaling $4 billion were imposed, though prosecutors acknowledged these would likely never be collected in full. The symbolic weight of the sentences reflected both punishment for crimes committed and a message to others involved in cybercrime that consequences were severe and inevitable. With the founder imprisoned, Phantom Siege's infrastructure collapsed. Remaining members either surrendered to authorities or went permanently underground, abandoning the organization's name and methodology. The dark web marketplaces where stolen data had been sold implemented new verification procedures to prevent similar operations. Cryptocurrency exchanges enhanced monitoring for transactions potentially connected to cybercrime proceeds. The victims of the massive data breach faced years of dealing with identity theft and financial fraud enabled by the stolen information. Credit monitoring services were provided at government expense, but many victims suffered consequences that monitoring could not prevent. Some lost savings to fraudulent wire transfers. Others had medical treatments denied when thieves used stolen identities to obtain services under their names. The full impact would take years to quantify, but estimates suggested economic damages exceeding $10 billion when all direct and indirect costs were considered. Law enforcement agencies used intelligence from the case to enhance cybersecurity protocols and develop better methods for tracking international cybercriminals. The cooperation between American and Thai authorities demonstrated that even sophisticated technical criminals could be located and apprehended when nations worked together effectively. The case became a model for future international cyber investigations. For the U.S. Marshals who coordinated the manhunt, the successful apprehension validated their approach to tracking fugitives in the digital age. Traditional fugitive hunting techniques, financial analysis, surveillance, cultivating informants, remained relevant even when targets operated primarily in cyberspace. The founder's physical presence in Thailand, his need for housing and daily necessities, created vulnerabilities that eventually led to his capture. Despite his technical sophistication, the FBI's cyber division continued pursuing remaining Phantom Siege members and investigating other hacking groups that emerged to fill the void left by the organization's destruction. The cycle was perpetual. Criminal organizations formed, conducted operations, and were eventually dismantled, only to be replaced by new groups with different names but similar methodologies. The key was maintaining pressure through consistent investigation and prosecution, demonstrating that cybercrime carried real consequences regardless of perpetrators' technical abilities or geographic locations. The seized cryptocurrency, worth approximately $800 million at time of arrest, was converted to U.S. currency and deposited into federal asset forfeiture accounts. A portion was designated for victim compensation, distributed through a claims process that required proof of damages from the data breach. The remainder funded law enforcement operations targeting cybercrime and technology upgrades for systems compromised during phantom siege attacks. The founder sits in a maximum security federal prison, his computer expertise now useless in an environment where he has no internet access and minimal technology. He filed numerous appeals challenging his conviction and sentence, all rejected by courts that found no error in trial proceedings and no basis for reducing his punishment. His attorneys continue filing motions, but legal experts consider his chances of successful appeal virtually non-existent given the overwhelming evidence and the severity of his crimes. Intelligence reports suggest that some former Phantom Siege members have attempted to restart operations under different names. But law enforcement maintains surveillance and investigates any activity matching the group's previous patterns. The founder's imprisonment sent a clear message, but criminal opportunism remains constant in the cybercrime ecosystem. New groups form regularly, believing they can avoid the mistakes that led to Phantom Siege's downfall. The case transformed how law enforcement approached international cybercrime investigations. The traditional boundaries between cyber operations and physical fugitive hunting dissolved, with successful operations requiring integration of technical analysis, financial tracking, international cooperation, and traditional investigative skills. Agencies invested in training personnel who could operate effectively across these domains. For the millions whose data was stolen, the breach remains a permanent vulnerability. Even years later, criminals continue exploiting the information for identity theft and fraud. Victims must maintain vigilance indefinitely, monitoring credit reports and financial accounts for suspicious activity. The theft was not a single event, but an ongoing violation that continues affecting lives long after the perpetrators were imprisoned. The founder's family, who had maintained he was engaged in legitimate security consulting work, struggled with revelation of his true activities. Some cut off contact entirely, refusing to visit or communicate with him in prison. Others remained supportive, arguing that his punishment exceeded the severity of crimes that caused no physical violence. These debates reflected larger societal questions about appropriate punishment for cybercrimes and whether non-violent offenses warranted life imprisonment. Legal scholars studied the case for insights into how justice system should handle sophisticated cybercrimes that cross international boundaries and affect millions of victims. The founder's sentences were among the most severe ever imposed for computer crimes, setting precedent that would influence future prosecutions. Some argued the sentences were appropriate given the massive scale of harm. Others suggested they were excessive and represented society's fear of technology more than proportionate justice. The technology companies whose systems were compromised during Phantom Siege operations implemented enhanced security measures, though some faced lawsuits from customers who argued that inadequate protection had enabled the breaches. These civil cases proceeded separately from criminal prosecutions, with plaintiffs seeking damages for negligence in safeguarding sensitive data. Settlement negotiations resulted in payments totaling hundreds of millions of dollars to affected individuals and businesses. The dark web marketplaces where stolen data was sold faced increased law enforcement pressure. Several major platforms were shut down through coordinated international operations. Others implemented stronger verification procedures, attempting to exclude law enforcement infiltrators and reduce involvement in the most serious crimes. But the fundamental marketplace dynamic persisted. Criminals had data to sell, buyers wanted to purchase it, and platforms would emerge to facilitate transactions regardless of law enforcement efforts. Years after the founder's imprisonment, new massive data breaches occurred with disturbing regularity, demonstrating that Phantom Siege's destruction had not solved the underlying problem of cybercrime. Each breach prompted renewed calls for stronger cybersecurity regulations and harsher penalties for hackers. But the cycle continued. Breaches occurred, investigations identified perpetrators, prosecutions resulted in convictions, and new criminal groups emerged to replace those that had been dismantled. The founder will likely die in prison. His technical genius wasted in service of crimes that enriched him temporarily, but ultimately resulted in life imprisonment. His story serves as cautionary tale about how legitimate skills can be weaponized for criminal purposes and how initial small violations can escalate into massive crimes that destroy lives and result in permanent incarceration. But whether his example deters others remains uncertain, as each new generation of talented programmers includes some who see cybercrime as path to wealth and excitement, rather than inevitable prosecution and imprisonment. For law enforcement, the case demonstrated that even the most sophisticated cybercriminals could be tracked and apprehended through combination of technical analysis, international cooperation, and traditional investigative methods. The manhunt that ended in Chiang Mai showed that operating from foreign countries provided only temporary refuge, not permanent immunity from consequences. The message to cybercriminals was clear. Technical sophistication might delay capture, but it could not prevent it indefinitely. Justice would eventually prevail through persistent investigation and coordinated international law enforcement efforts.